fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got with the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome to Okayama, the Ozicar Turbo Touring Car Series here on Simspeed TV. A short, sharp night of action with two races, one acting as a feature race to the other, coming to you thanks to Simfinity, RMS Race Management Service, and RSW Graphics. As always, it's myself, Ryan Jones, and Cameron Dance alongside me for tonight's coverage, and we're getting right into the action as we look to the grid for race number 1. 10-minute sprint, this one, Cam. How are they going to line up?
Yeah, certainly. It's going to be on that front row. It's going to be no surprise to many. Jackson Susan Harlow and Riley Preston, followed by Caleb Hydes and Dean Ross on the second row. Reese Gardner and Riley Blythe going to line up on the next row in the 3rd, 6th, and 7th position. And then row 4 is going to be Sam Ross and Kobe Williams, Sal Galenti and Eddie Bess rounding out the top 10, and then the rest of your field is probably going to be scrolling through on your screen. Very action-packed 41-car grid is going to be looking very, very spicy for this track.
Yeah, indeed. Another massive grid turning out after last week, which is fantastic to see as the series continues to go from strength to strength. And will we see the resumption of the battle? Certainly looks that way between Harlow and Preston, taking one win apiece last time out at Suzuka. Equal on points heading into this round as a result, with both of them finishing second in the race they did not win. And much like race 1 last time, it's Harlow from pole, Preston from second. Really impressed by Caleb Hydes putting himself into 3rd. And Eddie Bestwick getting up inside the top 10 as well. A couple drivers continuing to improve as we move forward.
Yeah, certainly going to be quite interesting to see who ends up coming out on top at this round. Obviously, Preston and Harlow probably the favourites, but you've still got the likes of Dean Ross, Reese Gardner, Riley Blythe, and a few others who have proven themselves in previous seasons who really could mix it up with those at the front and really possibly mix this championship up a little bit. So we'll see what comes of this race and who's going to end up walking away with the first race win.
Well, red lights are on. The revs rise. Let's go racing. Green flag is out. Good initial launch from Preston. Didn't convert into the second phase, though, as Harlow moves across to cover him off. And Preston immediately darts to his outside. Behind them, they fan out 3, even 4, 5 wide down into turn number 1. We watch on as we hold our breath to see if they all make it through. They do. Remarkable effort there, as now they're running out of turn number 2. It's Preston trying to chase down Harlow side by side behind them. That's Caleb Hyde fending off Dean Ross and Reese Gardner.
Yeah, good move by Dean Ross up the inside, but Hyde's going to get hung up to dry a little bit. Going to have a possibly slightly better run onto the back straight, having taken that slightly wider line. He's going to be side by side with Dean Ross as Caleb Hydes as they head down the back straight. It's going to be in favour of Dean Ross, who's going to be on the inside for the hairpin here, and they're still battling just behind as well. And that Dean Ross is going to come away with that, and the lead is coming together just slightly.
Preston looking the long way around. Harlow just a little bit wide on the entry, and they made door-to-door contact. So JSH prevails for now, but Preston certainly hungry to take away the race lead. Remember, back to race 1 at Suzuka, he spent the entire race tucked up behind Harlow, couldn't find a way through. It was only until the pit stops in race 2 that he was able to get ahead of him, as Gardner up the inside, now caught on the outside of Hydes, who's doing a great job of fighting here. Unfortunately, has lost out to Ross, and still just hanging on to Gardner. Now he loses out as the Fusion Sim Racing car shuts the door through the final corner. And Sam Ross will be next up, trying to pounce on that Eclipse driver who's going backwards and now having to defend again.
Yeah, certainly. And Kobe Williams and Riley Blythe are right behind as well. So if Sam Ross opens the door, it could lead to another 2 positions lost, maybe even possibly 3 if the car of Caleb Hydes is just unlucky enough. But he's doing a pretty good job at holding off the car of Sam Ross at the moment, who's all over the tail tank of Caleb Hydes. Now looks to the inside with a big lunge, and that's contact between the 2 of them.
I don't think Hyde saw him coming. It was a late lunge. And look how stacked up they are behind. Kobe Williams firmly into the back bumper there. Riley Blythe was also up in that nose-to-tail contact. And now Williams is caught behind Ross. And they're going backwards down this straight. Blythe and Bestwick with a great run. And Blythe sets himself up wide for the corner. Very tight down to the apex. Squeezing Williams as tight as he can. It's going to work because he picks up the spot.
Yeah, it was just a matter of Kobe Williams having to sort of back out of it a little bit with the fact that he was bump drafting Sam Ross all the way down the back straight and then had to check up to make sure he didn't run into the back of him at the hairpin. But nevertheless, Riley Blythe making a very good move up the inside.
No.
But contact between the 2 of them at the next sector.
It was a fantastic save, but it continues. And this is looking a very messy little group now. Headed up by Eddie Bestwick, who finds himself in 7th after all of that. Williams behind Reese Howe, probably the biggest winner. Puts himself up into 9th. Riley Blythe will be disappointed.
Yes,
oh, no!
More contact, Reese Howe.
That takes out Williams. Williams, the biggest loser there. Blythe just completely missed his braking marker. Chain reactions from that moment there, Cam.
Yes, certainly. All sorts going on just inside this little battle pack that's out just outside the top 10, and it's still going on at the moment. You've got Simon Mazzomo all over the back end of Reese Howell and Mia Ott in there as well as Sal Calente. But replay what happened here, and you just see all sorts going on. And unfortunately, Kobe Williams just an innocent bystander in it all.
Yep. And unfortunately, that's what you get with such tight pack racing, especially with such a short race, a 15-minute race. I should correct myself from the 10-minute remark I made earlier. As you see more replays of the contact earlier on, of course, all the races extended 5 minutes for this season to spread out the action just a little bit. As we continue to watch these guys, your top 3 update is Ott. That's a late look, and unsurprisingly, there's more contact. Another save. The front-wheel drive cars do lend themselves to pointing back in the right direction rather quickly, but still going to cost Howe a few spots.
Yeah, it's fair to say Reese has been a bit of a punching bag in this race so far, and we're only 3 laps in, so look, that car is looking a little bit secondhand. If it was actually carbon fibre like the livery is, it would be shattered into a million pieces, but it's clearly not, so it's holding up all right, but it's going to be suffering from a little bit of performance drag with the fact that there's so much damage on that car now. But nevertheless, Mia Ott making up another position, probably going to get a penalty for that, I imagine. But yeah, it's still going on, even just further back behind, just inside that top 20.
So Ott ends up in 9th with Sal Galensi tucked right up behind her. Up at the front, Harlow's got a half a second. Little cushion back to Preston. And Dean Ross is coming with these guys pretty well. He's hanging on only a second and a half off the back of the Altus Esports car. So he's doing a decent job at the moment. And then Reese Gardner a little way off the back of them. Caleb Hydes has managed to get himself a little bit more comfortable after his frenetic opening lap. And then it's still frenetic back here, isn't it? As that's up the inside. And there's more contact still. That was Mario Vartanian trying to force the issue on Nathan Anderson. Thankfully for Anderson, he doesn't lose any spots. Vartanian, though, will lose a position for his troubles, as Andrew Hobby and Sal Galenti are switching around.
Yeah, it's definitely still going on and just inside this top 10 here, and nobody's leaving anything on the table. There's just banging and barging and all sorts going on. It's really, really good to see, and there's a car parked, and that is Tom Frere's had a moment with, I believe, that is a 111 esports car of a possible Daniel Hiddeschild. No, Ira Felberg, actually.
Bump, bump, nudge, around you go. That will be rather upsetting for Tom Freer. And you can... Oh, no! That was a lot worse than it needed to be. There was a lot of space in front of Tom to just drive forward and turn the car around, but reversing onto the racing line was the chosen course of action there.
Yeah, that wasn't too ideal between any of those drivers. Spear was actually very lucky to end up avoiding that, and had he been there possibly a second or more later, he would have been in Ira's position. And yeah, really, really unfortunate for Ira there. He just was an innocent bystander and had nowhere to go, unfortunately.
Yep. Sorry, Tom, but hard not to criticise that one. Preston, he's just, I'd say, maybe a car length too far back from Harlow to really benefit from the slipstream down the front and the back straight and put himself in an overtaking spot down at the subsequent corners. Still 6 minutes to go, still a chance for him to get there, as Preston had the fastest lap of the race last time by. But this lap, though, the margin stretches out again.
Yeah, Harlow 2/10 quicker that lap around, so seems to be about even between the two of them, but like you said, it's just that minor lacking in terms of pace to try and be able to get a move done down the front straight, well, front or back straight, and possibly could be down to that damage that he did have from minor contact with Jackson Susan Harlow on lap 1, but nevertheless he's doing a fantastic job to hold on to second at the moment. But it's all going on still back here just outside that top 2 between Reese Howell, Nathan Anderson, and even Kobe Williams and Mario Vartanian not too far behind, but they're not too far away from actually catching Andrew Hobby and Sal Galante as well.
Reese Howell's going to be a little bit apprehensive here whenever anyone looks to his inside now, because he's been beaten up a few times already, as you mentioned. 2 tyres on the grass there, forcing the issue. Nathan Anderson going to bump into the side of Howell, not taking no for an answer. He's going to force his way up the inside, and he takes that spot away. That was decisive.
Yeah, it was certainly a very, very bold move by Anderson to put 2 wheels onto the grass to try and find a way on by, but managed to make it work regardless. So good move there by Nathan Anderson, but at the moment, Simon just up ahead of them. Simon Mazzomo is actually doing a pretty good job at holding off Mir, who was just ever so slightly quicker that last time by, and you have Sal Galante and Andrew Hobby and co all starting to actually catch up a little bit.
Still, Sam Ross continues to stare at the back of that Pitbox IO Eclipse Sim Sports car of Caleb Hydes. The pink highlights and a show of the nose, but nothing in it because he's not close enough to make the move on the brakes without making contact, as a host of black flags have come in from race control who have had a busy start to this one. Tom Freer, Kobe Williams, Jack Patterson, all given black flags already in this one.
Yeah, Tom Freer will cop that black flag for that not so ideal rejoin where you make contact with Ira Felberg, and Kobe Williams being a black flag for possibly an incident earlier on, not quite remembering what that was, but nevertheless, more black flags being handed out with obviously race control dealing to various different incidents. But at the moment, Sam Ross just can't seem to find a way on by the car of Caleb Hydes, who's just doing enough to hold on at the moment, despite the fact that Sam Ross is actually slightly quicker.
You see there, Hedgesfield on the inside of Dahlia. Dahlia really threw it in on the outside, on the brakes, but couldn't quite get it turned, accelerated off the exit of the corner fast enough, and Hedgesfield, as a result, was able to squeeze on by and take away P16. Grant Matterford, the next car behind, to probably try to replicate that next time around. He's looking pretty fast as well. In fact, last time by, he was 0.6 of a second quicker than Dahlia.
Yeah, it's a pretty decent amount of time to be having over someone, especially in these CCR cars where everybody's reasonably everybody's around the same sort of pace. So Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see what happens. But a big mover here up the inside by Sam Ross again, but not going to be ending up with a cigar this time by. So again, trying to make a move, but just can't seem to get enough of a run to get on by.
Yeah, gotta be getting frustrated now, as that's Hal, and that's Anderson, side by side again. This is a story we've seen these before, these two running wheel to wheel. So Hal's been able to get back by after Anderson forced his way through just a few hundred meters up the road from here a couple laps ago. And with a good exit, he might be safe. Although these cars so powerful, sucked up in the slipstream. Hal's going to have to defend, and he is. Driving down the right-hand side of the road. This time Anderson opts to keep all four tyres on the black stuff. Going to pinch him down to the apex, and Vartanian going to get his nose in there as well now. So the route back to the racing line blocked off. He finds a way back, and Vartanian lunges to the inside, gets into his left rear. Another great save. And that gives a lot of time to Reese Howell. He'll be loving that.
Yeah, he certainly will.
He'll be loving seeing someone else get hit on the inside for once.
Yeah, he certainly will, especially with the fact that he's been a punching bag, but nevertheless, it's going to allow him to try and at least pull a bit of a gap, and there's going to be 2 laps to go. And again, Harlow's still doing enough to just hold off Riley Preston for the time being for the lead of this race, but it's still going on for that 5th position between Hides and Sam Ross, and it's still going on even between the likes of Simon Mazzomo. Mia Otts just actually made a move up the inside of Simon Mazzomo to take that 8th place position, and now Mazzomo's going to come under pressure from Sal Galante here.
He is. Going to be tough to make a move, though, up at turn 4. Might have to wait till the exit of the back straight and make it stick. Maybe Mazzomo can come back at all. Exit's going to be crucial for all of these guys and Mia as well. There's a replay of the move on the brakes. Looked like she was struggling to pull it up for a moment. Did a nice job and made that one stick very cleanly.
Yeah, certainly did a very, very good move, but it's
look at this,
starting to get very close for that lead now, and Preston's actually starting to put a bit of pressure on Harlow here.
He is. Preston did a 1 minute 37.7 fastest lap of the race 2 laps ago. He was a 10th quicker last lap as well. He's finding some great late race pace here, which may be troublesome for Harlow when we get into race 2. On to the front straight we go. The margin sitting at 0.4 of a second. They'll see the white flag, so 1 more lap around here at Okayama for race 1, round 2 of season 4. Is Preston fast enough on this final lap? The first half of laps where he needs to be very fast to put himself in a good spot as Harlow drops 2 tyres off the exit of the racetrack for a move up at turn 5. That should be where he's aiming to set it up for. But this is the corner that matters as they wind up. And on the throttle they go. Is that gap big enough for Harlow?
It's going to be very, very close, but doesn't look like it's going to be big enough for Harlow, and Preston's going to possibly look to the inside. No, not going to be late enough, but big late contact!
Into the fence for Harlow, and into the gravel trap he goes as well. Contact for the race lead. So Harlow will have to rejoin after a long venture through the grass and the gravel. Where does he rejoin? He's back in 3rd place now. So if Preston wants to redress, he'll cost himself the lead of the race. Dean Ross in 2nd now. Might be set up for potentially a win if Preston gets a penalty for that as well.
Yes,
so after 3 races of battling, they make contact for the first time with a move that I think was made just a fraction of a second too late as he set himself up exactly as I predicted for the move into that hairpin. So, checkered flag on race 1. Riley Preston for Evolution Racing Team takes it under a mist of controversy. Dean Ross 2nd, Harlow only 3rd.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, and it'll be no surprise if Preston cops a penalty, but Eddie Beswick will come home in 6th with the cut of, Caleb Hydes will come home in 5th, Eddie Beswick in 6th, and Sam Ross will end up actually coming home in 7th after being passed at the hairpin at the end of the back straight on the final lap. So Sam Ross loses 2 in 1 lap, and yeah, Ott's going to come home in 8th, Mizomo in 9th, and Galante is going to round at the top 10.
That's close to the line. The chicken up man won't quite get there, though. 41 cars in total took to the starting grid here. You can see one of the Swift racers finishing off their race. A couple more still to come. And then we should probably dissect that move. We're good to have a look at it from the cockpit perspective of Riley Preston too, because he was definitely thinking about it, but I think he got caught in a bit of an indecisive mind frame.
Yeah, it was certainly a very strange one. He possibly didn't expect Harlow to brake so early, and then only just realised where he was braking and when he needs to put the pedal down. So, yeah, it's really, really unfortunate. A very strange one, but nevertheless, it's definitely fired this rivalry up between these two drivers, that's for sure.
So here we go, onto the back straight. The margin now at about 3 car lengths. By the time they get to the braking zone, it's about a car length, maybe a fraction shorter. Doesn't look to make a move until Harlow hits the brakes, and then, yeah, it's like he's tried to angle himself into the corner, misjudged it, maybe been caught out by where Harlow broke, and in the end, just a little touch on the right rear is enough to send an Alta's car spearing into the wall.
Yeah, it was about a 20 kilometer an hour pace differential between the two of them when contact was made. So Preston was carrying a heck of a lot more speed into the corner than Harlow was in eternity. So it's actually hard to tell whether Preston would have made the corner if there was no contact at all. But yeah, it would have been interesting to see what happened if there was no contact at all and what might have come of that battle between those two.
We'll get a chance to retry it in race number 2. Before we get into qualifying in race 2, let's take a look at your race results. So Preston wins it by 3.9 seconds. Whether that holds up, we wait and see. Dean Ross in 2nd, poised potentially for a post-race victory. Jackson Harlow 3rd. Reese Gardner, Caleb Hyde, your top 5. Eddie Bestwick home in 6th place. Sam Ross, Mia Ott, Summer Mizomo, and Sal Galenti making up your top 10.
And you got Andrew Hobby in Reese Howell in 11th and 12th, 13th and 14th to Mario Vartanian and Nathan Anderson, Daniel Heddershield and Benjamin Dahlia rounding out the top 15 and in 16th. 17th to Grant Matterford, 18th to Matthew Spencer, and rounding out the top 20 will be Stephen Grimer and Matt Dunphy.
Could be Williams, James Allen, Jaeger Pascoe, Ashley Norman, Tim Cornt, Jake Sperry, Dylan Gray, Cameron Cousins, Ira Feldberg, Casey Mann. Your top 30 getting into the guys now who are over a minute off the pace. All these guys pretty much ran into issues. We saw Ira Feldberg getting cleaned up by Tom Freer, Pariana Stacker, Sole Fontana, and then the rest of your drivers there who finished multiple laps down, retired from the race. So we're going to take a quick break here on Simspeed TV, but don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we'll have a qualifying session number 2, and then a 25-minute feature race, and the battle between Preston and Harlow. Is there more contacts to come, or will they resolve their differences?
fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my god! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome back to Simspeed TV, to our coverage of the Ozicar Turbo Touring Car Series here on iRacing, brought to you by RSW Graphics, RMS Race Management Service, and of course Simfinity. And we are getting set for the second half of round 2. This is qualifying number 2 for our 25-minute feature race, where drivers will have to make a pit stop for 2 tyres. Of course, myself, Ryan Jones, and Cameron Dance up here calling this action for you. Haven't mentioned Jay Kennedy behind the scenes because we tried to keep him as hidden away as possible, but he is the one bringing all the cameras to you. And Cameron, race 1. There's some rivalry starting to form.
Indeed, there is. After what was a controversial finish on the final lap between Jackson Susan Harlow and Riley Preston, this championship has definitely been spiced up quite a bit between those two now, with the fact that there's no longer a bit of friendliness between them. It's now going to be treat each other how you want to be treated sort of thing. So we'll see what comes of this as the season progresses. But yeah, it's certainly made the rivalry that much stronger.
Yeah, it was a nice clean racing for 2 races in 14 minutes and 35 seconds. And then it all came on stuck. So, I think qualifying is going to be very important because, as we've seen race 1 both weeks, Preston, behind Harlow, could not make the move stick. Harlow won race 1 at Suzuka, would have won race 1 here, if not for the contact. So Preston's hoping to get ahead of him and pull away. Like he did at Suzuka, he needed the pit stop, though, in order to achieve that. And when you take the pit stop, is definitely going to have quite some influence on your race. Clean air is worth a lot. And qualifying is going to be worth a lot too, based on what we saw at the start of the last race. A lot of action throughout the pack. Let's run on board with Matthew Spencer then, as he makes his way down to the hairpin.
Yes,
Cam?
I was just going to say, there's actually something very interesting about this track, in that it's actually nearly got every sort of corner you can possibly think of. There's fast corners, there's slow corners, there's hairpins, there's 90-degree corners. It's a really technical track, but also really, really enjoyable.
It is. It's a very nice blend, isn't it, of tight, twisty, high speed as well. Oh, there's something you don't see if they take a screenshot of that. Jake Sperry was fastest, and now he's 36 seconds off the pace as Harlow goes to the top. It wasn't even a good lap from Sperry, 36 seconds off. Somehow was the first guy across the line. So Harlow's got an 1/8 of a second gap then back to Williams. Preston hasn't set a lap yet.
Yeah, Preston well, he actually has done a lap, but he hasn't actually set a valid one yet. So he's on his second lap now. So we'll see what the time is going to be when he comes across the line, just coming onto the back straight now. But yeah, it's really interesting to see what this field is like. I mean, Harlow at the moment is nearly, it was got 8/10 over Reese Howell, currently sits in second at the moment, which is a very large gap. But nevertheless, it's looking pretty competitive throughout the rest of the field, though. You've got Reese Howell on a 39.1, and then you have to go back to just outside the top 15 to actually get an entire second. So it's very, very bunched up after the first lap for majority of the field.
You're right. Let's see where Cameron Cousins will put himself in the cascade of names up on the timing board then, as he rounds out onto the main straight. He will come to the line. Where does he go on that number 17 machine? It's a 1:44.939. Not a representative lap, unfortunately. That lap won't count. Ira Felberg trying to bounce back after his issue in race 1, as he was blindsided coming into a corner. It's a 40.3, and that will put Ira into 20th place. Preston finally gets a lap down, goes second, but he's 2 tenths off of Harlow. And Blythe going up to P3 there. Very tight, third on back. Really is a 2-horse race up at the front between the Altus man and the ERT man. Jaeger Pasco back in 25th. That's a pretty good looking livery. Number 042. Running out onto the back straight. So Harlow found an improvement of half a second from lap 1 to lap 2. Will he find a similar improvement from lap 2 to lap 3? Preston, of course, invalidated on his first attempt, trying to put down his second and final validated lap of the session.
Yeah, we'll see what comes of the final laps for Preston and Blythe.
Harlow.
Just coming to the final sector, and Harlow has indeed once again gone much quicker than his, well, second lap anyway. So we'll see what time is going to be for Preston when he comes across the line. A 37.7 is not going to be Harlow, and Reese Gunner ends up in P3 with a 38.0.
Not a bad effort from him, only 3 tenths off Preston with that one. Riley Blythe ends up 5th for now. Andrew Hobby just on the outside of the top 10, looking to squeeze in on that number 18 Audi TCR. Sponsored by Flight Center. He runs this car in the Circuit XL E-Series as well. As on the main straight, what's it going to be? Looking to improve on a 138.993. His final attempt will be a 38.6. Finds 3 tenths, goes back up to P13 after having been knocked down in the final sector of that lap.
Yeah, very, very good lap by Andrew Hobby to end up putting himself in P number 13. A couple of drivers still yet to set their final laps, but a couple of had gone and improved on their previous best. You got the likes of Simon Zomo up into 16th, Sam Ross into 11th, Caleb Hydes into 12th, Eddie Beswick into P9, Mario Vartanian into 7th. So field is starting to be shuffled into its, I guess you could say, normal order.
And I guess we're going to see a resumption of the gladiatorial battle between Harlow and Preston. Then that should be interesting to watch over the course of the next 25 minutes. Cavallaro going to put down his final effort. No, he won't. He'll abandon the lap and head down to pit road. Who else is on track? Caleb Hydes? Nope. He too is abandoning lap number 3. Shows you how good of a job Harlow did to improve on his final lap. Dean Ross in 4th. If he can find just a 10th of a second, he'll go quicker than Reese Gardner. Find himself on the inside of the track for the run down to turn 1. Last corner's crucial. Going to hurt you all the way down to the start-finish stripe if you don't get the exit. But front-wheel drive car makes it very difficult to get the power down early. Wow, 37.962. Improves by 2 tenths. Goes up to 3rd. Only 3 tenths off Preston there. So your top 4 now covered by half a second as Fontana back there goes to 28th. And that's everyone. So let's take a look at your starting grid for race 2 of the Ozicar Turbo Touring Car Series from Okayama. Harlow and Preston on the front row again. Dean Ross, Reese Gardner behind them. Copy Williams and Riley Blythe on row 3. Mario Vartanian and Reese Howe on the 4th row of the grid. Eddie Bestwick and Sal Galenti making up your top 10.
Just outside at the top 10 is going to be Sam Ross, followed by Caleb Hydes. Row 7 is going to be Andrew Hobby and Tom Frere, Ashley Norman and Simon Mazoma on row 8. Row 9, Grant Matterford and Daniel Heddershield, and Nathan Anderson and Casey Mann rounding out the top 20 in row 10.
21st off the starting grid for this one. Going to go the way of Matthew Spencer, and Joshua Cavallaro starts next to him. Tim Corn and Benjamin Dahlia on row 12. Stephen Grummer, Perianastakis, Matt Dunphy, Ole Fontana, Mia Ott. Will be disappointed by that. And Will Newell starting from 30th.
And you've got the rest of your field. Jager Pascoe, Dylan Gray, James Allen, Ira Felberg, Jake Sperry, Cameron Cousins, rounding out the field for tonight's 36-car field.
I said with an improvement to P3, Dean would put himself on the inside run for turn 1. Not the case. Pole position and subsequently all the odd numbers. Starting on the outside of the track, which is a racing line, so technically is fastest to get away, but still got to make sure you nail it, otherwise you're going to have a car up your inside very quickly. Didn't talk about the weather conditions at all in race 1. It's typically comfortable here in the Ozicar series, 27-degree track temp. Estimated distance here of 16 laps. And remember, the pit window opens anywhere from the end of lap 1 to the beginning of the final lap of the race. Expect drivers to go a little bit longer than we're used to in this series, as we saw last week with the introduction of the extra 5 minutes, making the tyre works a little bit more prevalent for the guys that pit early on. But still, if you get yourself out of traffic, get yourself some clean air, it is a massive benefit regardless of the late race pace. Just 10 seconds left and we'll get this thing underway for the final time today from the beautiful Okayama circuit in Japan. One more round in the Japanese country before we head down to Australia to round off the season after this. Red lights are on. All eyes to the front row to see who gets to jump. The green flag is out. We're racing even from your top 2. Very even indeed. Gardner gets away well from 4th. Going to challenge Dean Ross down into turn number 1 on the inside. And they're still going to be side by side of the exit. In fact, they made a bit of wheel-to-wheel contact. Everyone else gets through there cleanly. And Ross out to prevail with the inside run through turn 2. Oh,
and
Riley Blythe.
Very careful to make a rejoin there back onto the circuit, and has dropped all the way outside the top 50, all the way back to just inside the top 30. So not too ideal of a start for Blythe, but contact between himself and Vartani, and so Vartani probably going to cop a penalty. But what's on for the lead at the moment between Riley Preston and Jackson Susan Harlow. Harlow going to defend to the inside, and more contact between the two of them.
Preston turned in too early. We saw that pretty much exactly the same in race 1 as well. Preston on the outside, contact slightly different contact as we saw first time around, but end results the same. Harlow skips away to a car length advantage. Poor exit for Dean Ross there. Lucky to get away with it as Reese Gard was under pressure from Kobe Williams.
And Galante round in the background.
Yeah, that's so Galante there on the tyre wall down on the inside off the exit of the corner. Might have got a helping hand to end up there. Front wheel drive car, you normally expect to end up on the outside fence, not the inside fence. If you get on the throttle too early, let's see. Well, that's Hedgesfield. Galante's already gone.
Conte put himself in Eddie Beswick by the looks of Beswick. Just put it up the inside when there kind of wasn't really any room, and just made slight contact with the rear end, and unfortunately Galante ending up getting collected by Andrew Hobby as well.
Big damage to the front of Hobby's car and to the side of Galante. That's a shame for both of those guys. Gonna bring them both down to pit road to get that repaired. So back out of turn 4 we go. And once again, Preston's in range to have a look down at the hairpin. Well, this looks eerily similar to the last lap of race 1. This time Harlow defends the inside very aggressively. Preston gives him a shot there on the entry of the corner. He's letting him know that he's there and he wants to get by. The issue is, as we've seen over all 4 races so far this season, Preston has an issue with getting by Jackson Harlow. He can't seem to ever find a way through.
Yeah, he certainly can't seem to find a way on by, and Harlow does pretty good job of just placing the car in the right place that he needs to just to hold off Preston. Make it a little bit more difficult for Preston to try and find a way on by. So this is going to be making things a little bit interesting between these two. And do we have to wonder if he's possibly trying to get inside the head of Jackson Sutherland Harlow is Riley Preston with a bit of contact and everything. But nevertheless, it make this pit stop strategy quite interesting for Preston, because if he knows he's got the pace, then we might see a bit of an undercut strategy come into play for him instead of trying to go a little bit longer than what Harlow is. But we'll have to wait and see what happens between those two, as now Cavallaro comes into pit lane as well as one of the Chicken Up racing cars.
You saw a few seconds ago off the last corner, Eddie Beswick was the car through the grass. That cost him down at the first corner. Sam Ross was able to slip on by relatively easily, thanks to the sheer extra pace he had, as the field will roar underneath our camera for another trip down towards the troublesome hairpin, probably the action spot of the race so far in the evening so far, I should add to that. Close battle for 13th. Grant Matterford trying to fend off Hetchersfield and Nathan Anderson.
Yeah, certainly doing a pretty good job at the moment as Matterford to hold off Hettershield and Anderson, just slightly quicker. Hettershield with a 39.7 that last time by, so about 3 tenths quicker than Matterford. But it's one thing to catch someone, it's another thing to pass them, and Matterford going slightly defensive into what the first hairpin of the final sector. So going to be no pass made for Hettershield this time around, but he's definitely looking racy.
That was a solid exit, and Hetchersfield actually going to take it down to pit road. So going to get himself out of the traffic and into some clean air that I talked about on the starting grid that is oh so crucial in one of these short races. He's joined in the pit lane by Eddie Beswick as well. And looks like Vartanian may have made a mistake up at turn 1. Didn't cost him a spot. The leaders are still as tight as ever.
Yeah, it certainly is. Nose to tail at the front of the field, and just seeing that also you got the likes of Benjamin Daly, Perry Stakis, Mia Ott, all in the pits, and Beswick's been given a drive-through penalty as well for that contact with what was Mario Vartanian, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so.
Galante,
no,
sorry.
It's Al Galante, yeah, of course. Preston was slow on the first lap, comparative to Harlow, but laps 2 and 3, he's closed in the gap both times. That's Dunphy, who has found himself facing the wrong way, and he got a helping hand from the RMS car. No, lost it by himself. Up on the outside, just lost the rear end. May have just tickled the grass as he turned it in.
Yeah, that's a very strange one. That's almost similar to what you'd see with a rear-wheel drive car, where you've gone down one too many gears and you've compression locked the rear. But it's a bit hard to do that when you're in a front-wheel drive car. But nevertheless, Mia Ott having to give Benjamin Daly a bit of a run for their money, and they're going to go 3 wide down the back straight with Cavallaro getting in on the inside as well. Cavallo's going to have the advantage as they head down towards the hairpin, but Ott's going to brake slightly later than Daly, and Daly is going to run a bit wide, and that's going to allow Cavallaro to try and come on back, but going to be not quite enough of a run.
I think Cavallaro knew how compromised his entry was going to be and how shallow it was. He was going to have to pull up very significantly compared to the guys who was outside, and it wasn't worth it. As Ott's made a mistake, gone through the grass, Cavallaro was trying to get by Dahlia. They both had to back out of it as Ott moves across to defend. But this is really heating up. They're closing in on the back of another driver as well. That's the 111 esports car of Daniel Hetchersfield, who's about to fall into the clutches of these guys after making an early pit stop. Those early stops, all well and good if you do come out in clean air. If you get caught up in another battle, though, you're not doing yourself any favours.
Yeah, certainly not. And you have to remember, all these drivers in this little group have all pitted as well. So there's going to be no pit strategies to try and undercut or overcut each other anymore. They've all just got to try and sort themselves out on the track as battle going on just up the road between Sam Ross, I believe it is, and Reese Howell, who's trying to get as close as he can to the back end of that DSR car, but not quite going to be close enough at the moment. But Tom Freer is just behind Reese Howell as well, looking to try and possibly get on by.
In fact, looks like Ross has already got by Howell on this lap. So he's made that move and is now trying to skip away from him. Your top 9 are all pretty much in touch with each other. And then there's a bit of a gap forming back to 10th on back. Here's a replay. This was the pass up at the hairpin on the inside, easy as you like, for Reese Howell. And did he clear him before the next corner? No, Ross fought hard for it. Ends up on the outside, so how did he make this one stick? Oh, that's right, it was Ross making the move, wasn't it? So that's a good move from Ross, setting himself up for those double left-handers with the outside run through the hairpin.
Yeah, and it's one of those things about this track is you can make a pass at one corner, but if you haven't actually thought about it properly and the next two corners are actually going to give you a disadvantage, it's not really going to achieve anything if you try to make a move somewhere. So you're sort of better off trying to defend from someone and hold it around the outside and then get the inside for the next corner, like we've seen on numerous occasions at the double left here. But nevertheless, it's all going on at the front of the field, and Dean Ross is now actually not too far off this lead battle between Preston and Harlow now.
Yeah, Ross went purple last lap. He was the fastest driver out on the racetrack. So this could be a three-way fight here. And will be the first time in a while we've seen someone that isn't Harlow or Preston get a win in this series. Dean Ross has performed well. He's been up on the podium before. He's been a driver, I think him and Gardner have been the two guys that have been consistently improving over the last couple of seasons and have been marching our way towards the front. Dylan Gray in the action here. Trying to get by Tim Korn down this back straight. Gray's got the overlap. He's on the inside. He's got the overspeed as well. This should be relatively straightforward if he's brave enough on the brakes, but he isn't. Tim Korn, very strong, and Gray, I think in response, tried to overcook it. On the second half of the braking zone, there was contact with Korn, and then there was contact with the next car in line, Parianastakis. He gets the move done, but I think Race Control might be having a look at a few different pieces of contact there.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that Gray has actually managed to get away with not ending up in the fence after being hit from behind by Parianastakis just before in that second part of that incident, but nevertheless, it's certainly got the job done there. And it's still on for the lead at the moment, and Dean Ross has actually closed that gap up to Riley Preston now.
Just having a look at their comparative lap times. So Harlow did the fastest lap of the race last time. Oh, his fastest lap of the race. Preston did his fastest lap of the race, and Ross did his fastest lap of the race last time by. So they're all putting in personal best. And the net result is a very tight top three, where the tiniest mistake is probably going to cost you a shot at advancing your position, or in Harlow's case, maintaining his position. That time by, all of them drop a couple tenths as the track temp goes up a notch. And Harlow actually pulled a gap on Preston, who pulled a gap on Ross, so they stretched out. Howell and Hides are in pit road in tandem.
And Riley Blythe currently trying to make a little bit of a comeback after that earlier incident on lap 1. Actually, has been given a black flag as well, so this race hasn't been going particularly well for Blythe after starting in P6 and what looked to be a pretty solid result in race 1 as well. So the ending of the night isn't going to be going too well for Blythe, who currently sits in P14 at the moment, still yet to pit as well, I believe. Yes, he does. So we'll see what happens when that black flag is served and when he does his pit stop as well, and where he ends up falling down to.
We're halfway through this race, in fact, just a bit over halfway through this race now. On board with Summon Mizomo, that's Tom Freer, who made that all too easy for the Fitstyle Motorsport guy. Dropped all four off the exit of turn number 2. And Mizomo just drove straight on by him. Next up for him is Reese Howe and then Caleb Hides, who've spread themselves out after their earlier battles. 6th place is in. That's Sam Ross. Reese Gardner into the lane as well.
Yeah, Mario Vartanian staying out in that little group and see if anybody else decides to come down to the lane. Does not look like there anyone else is, or James Allen decides to come in at a very, very last minute, but at the moment, no one else inside that top 5 more or less has decided to come down to pit lane.
This battle has not gone away. Near Ott, Hedgesfield, Dahlia. So Hedgesfield's lost out a spot to Ott now. And that's going to be hurting him in terms of his overall race battle that he was having before he pitted. Remember, he's out of cycle with the guys he's racing at the moment. And just up the road from these few is another 4 or 5 car battle. That's the one with Hides, Howell, and Mizomo.
Yeah, so if these lot at the just ahead start to get a little bit feisty in terms of the battle they're having, it might actually slow them up quite a bit and actually might bring this group that's just behind into the clutches of this group that is just outside at the top 15.
Now, this is Reese, and there is a point to be made about Reese that our director told us, but unfortunately we couldn't hear because his microphone sounds like it's 10 feet underwater. Oh, he's the first car that's pitted. There you go. Let's look at Mizomo again because he's under threat from Tom Freer, who's trying to get back the spot that he gave up very easily. A lap or two ago. Oh no, too deep. Contact. How? Freer will be the one that loses out. He gets stuck on the inside of the corner. Reese Howe, again, ends up with a car on his right-hand side door. This time he gets away with it. And Ashley Norman is going to swoop around the outside of Mizomo there.
Yes, certainly a very, very good move by Ashley Norman to get around the outside and ahead of Simon Mizomo, but that was very lucky for Mizomo to actually not get caught up in that incident into the hairpin. It could have very easily gone all very wrong for him, but nevertheless, and Preston has finally come into the lane, or come in a lane, and Preston is just going to miss out on getting Riley Preston, but Preston on cold tyres is going to possibly struggle here to try and stay ahead of Sal Galante and Reese Gardner.
How did their pit stop time stack up then? Because either that's a phenomenal outlap. So I think Preston might have just thrown away the lead of a shot at lead of the race. He was 6 seconds slower on the pit stop than Reese Gardner was, and you've got to say that Harlow's probably going to be closer to Gardner's time than Preston. So this may give this one to JSH, but we'll see how his pit stop pans out. Sal Galante might get involved in this as well. He hasn't pitted, but he's now tucked in between Preston and Gardner. Look how much stronger that Fusion car is on the brakes down into the corner. There's a look up the inside, and there's Harlow down to pit road. That was Crittenden getting the move done, or losing out, sorry, to Sam Ross.
Certainly going to be interesting to see where Jackson Susan Harlow, well, Riley Preston actually comes out in terms of Jackson Susan Harlow. Harlow's still up on the Jackson. He's got Mario Vartanian in as well with him. Preston, Harlow
Sperry's holding up Preston.
And Harlow is well and truly ahead.
That's more than 6 seconds. So the 6 seconds, I'm assuming he was 6 seconds quicker in the lane.
7.
So he was 7 seconds quicker in the lane, but the gap is bigger than that. I think Sperry, the gap is 9.2, so Sperry's cost Preston about 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds there through the last sector of the racetrack. The other half a second was the gap between them before they pitted. So now all JSH has to do is just cruise home with the victory with 7 minutes remaining. probably feels he's owed this victory after the contact in race 1. Be interesting to see what it does to the points in terms of Preston winning the first race, but a post-race penalty probably hanging over his head, looking at a P2 in race 2, and Harlow a P3 and a P1 potentially. And oh no, Sperry's just got a hit from Gardner, who's not happy with him holding these guys up. In the end, he goes around the outside, but Sperry...
Yeah, obviously Sperry and Reese, both very, very good friends and organisers of Max Pants, so they'll be probably bantering a little bit between each other, and probably will be probably no love lost between those two with that contact, but Reese trying to close that gap down to Preston now, and we'll be interested to see what actually Harlow's lap is this time around when he comes across the line, as Dean Ross has just dropped and he's actually going to end up coming out in second here.
He is, so that's a fantastic effort for Dean Ross. You just saw a shot of the Century Battery team cars battling away up at the front. Grant Madford, Nathan Anderson, 1-2 in this one, both with the 20-second margin. The only two drivers yet to make a pit stop, with the exception of Sperry, who's actually just brought up to the lane. So these guys running the same strategy, and that strategy is go as long as you can. Ashley Norman on the outside of Summer Mizoma. Remember, he made that move through the middle sector about 3 laps ago now, I think it was, after Mizomo had to sidestep the contact in front of him, and Norman capitalized, and now the angry Italian is trying to get back on by.
I think Mizomo is probably not going to be your friend anymore after that, but nevertheless, Mizomo going to try and go around the outside, but not quite. Getting able to break late enough, and almost had a look to try and carry a bit more momentum on the high side, but not going to be able to do that, and decides better of it to stay on behind, but going to have slightly more pace than Norman at the moment to try and make a movement up the road. Is also Reese Howell and Caleb Hydes to make things a little bit interesting between those two. We'll see what comes of that battle as well. But Mizomo is really, really strong through this final sector here.
Yeah, let's see if he can pull enough of the gap in through these last 2 corners. Norman was pretty unsettled up on the curbing there for the penultimate turn. In the end, does a good job to recover and should be safe down at turn 1. And this is for a spot just outside the top 10, P12 overall, or P10 it should be once Anderson and Manafort pit. Again, Norman, very wide on the exit of turn 1. He's taken that line 2 laps in a row now. And probably, if I look back, a few laps before that too. So maybe a sign that he's just struggling a little bit for some front-end grip.
Now, it could be very, very possible that he might be struggling for grip, as just did see Crittenden parked on the inside there. But yeah, he did mention he was struggling with his tyres in race 1, so could very well maybe be that he has burnt them up a little bit too quick in race 2 here, and not quite able to have the advantage over Ashley Norman at the moment. Struggling to get the car pulled up as well, and having a little bit of rear locking going on, but managed to get it stopped regardless. And Reese Howell is really putting a lot of pressure on Caleb Hydes as well, just in front of them.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because it's Norman that looks like he's struggling with the tyres, washing wide through some of these corners, but I think Mizomo is just struggling for outright pace in terms of this battle at the moment. Struggling to get his braking markers accurate in behind that Audi in front. So everyone's pitted, so that cycles Harlow back to the lead of the race. Dean Ross second, Preston third. There's 6.8 seconds separating them. Jaeger Pascoe having to do a big U-turn. That looks like the hairpin, and it is. So he's in the slipstream here of that looks like Joshua Cavallaro.
Anastakis, actually, and he's had a moment coming together with him at the apex of the corner, and not that was a very strange one. Not quite sure what happened there, whether Anastakis got a little bit loose or whether Pasco ended up just coming up into him there. That's a really weird one.
Well, first time we've seen the car on the inside be the big loser to those types of contacts. The inertia of that car up top turning down, sending Pasco around, and did a good job but not to immediately flick it back onto the racing line there. He waited till the track was clear. Mizomo's right under the rear wing now of Ashley Norman, who's having to defend. Down the back straight they go. Oh, they almost run into each other as they try to put themselves in the best line for the braking zone. On the outside, Supreme from Mizomo. Norman's trying to hold on, but Simon is fighting very hard for this spot. They're still wheel to wheel. Now into the left-hander. The outside should prevail here, but he grabs the grass. That's not going to help. That's going to give the momentum to the Texets car. With the chicken up man on the outside, doing a stunning job to try and fight this. Now he's got preferred line again. This is a fantastic scrap. And there's contact. And Mizomo loses out.
Yeah, it was looking like it was going to be in favour of Simon there, but just not quite in the end of that slight bump between them. Just ended up costing Mizomo that position in the end. So he'll try again the next time around, but it's going on just ahead of them between Reese Howell and also Caleb Hydes, who's trying to do everything he possibly can to defend from Howell here. He's looking very, very racy. Should be the white flag, if I'm not mistaken, at the moment. So it's going to be a matter of just trying to find a way on by for Reese Howell if he wants to get this position.
I don't know if he's going to be able to get there. Either way, up front, Harlow was cruising, isn't he? Wow, Hydes covered him off really late there, and Howe now on the outside of him. We've seen this tail so many times. The faster car having to go the long way up at the hairpin. It hasn't worked out very often. And he runs too wide on the exit. And that means Hydes is able to clear him into the next one. And that should be him, home and dry in that one, barring mistakes. Through the final sector. All the way up at the front of the field, though, Jackson Harlow has responded perfectly to the Race 1 disaster. He is going to come to the line. And Altus Esports, through Jackson Harlow, is going to take out race number 2 of round 2 of the Ozicar Turbo Touring Car Series. Dean Ross claiming P2, and Riley Preston home in 3rd. The interesting thing is that if there is no penalty to Preston, the points will still be tied heading into race round 3.
Yeah, indeed, they will, to make things that much more interesting. But Caleb Hydes is just going to hold off Reese Howell for 8th. And Ashley Norman will just hold off Simon Mizomo for that final spot inside the top 10. Mia Ott going to come home in 11th. Adenson in 13th. And then you go back to Matterford, Dahlia, Heddershield, Beswick going to end up getting 16th in the end, 17th to Heddershield, 18th Matthew Spencer, 19th to Tom Freer, and rounding out the top 20 is going to be Stephen Grimer.
Last few drivers coming to the line very tight in the back of the pack here. I think definitely overall a lot more of a cleaner second race than the first race. Certainly less retirements, but 25 minutes seems to be a very good formula. Dean Ross going to be ecstatic to walk away with second there. Played his pit strategy right. Something went wrong for Preston, and I'm sure he'll be having to get to the bottom of that. Your top 3 there, as we called, finishing 7 seconds apart. Then Gardner, Vartanian, Kobe Williams, Sam Ross, Caleb Hydes, Reese Howe, Ashley Norman. Some very good results there for guys like Kobe Williams and Caleb Hydes.
Then we go back to the rest of the field. Yeah, very, very action-packed race throughout the field, actually. And you couldn't take your eyes off anywhere. It was just so many cars just looking to try and make moves everywhere. And a number of drivers ended up falling victim to various penalties and incidents that were just no fault of their own. Unfortunately, Riley Byth, one of those who ended up actually coming home 22nd after starting P6. So a lot of winners and a lot of losers in this round.
Indeed there was, and we'll have to watch and wait to see what the outcome of the race 1 contact was. Let's have a chat to our provisional race 1 winner. Riley Preston joins us in the booth. Another very good battle between yourself and Harlow today, Riley. Although, maybe a bit of controversy surrounding race 1.
Yeah. Hey guys. Race 1 was, yeah, I mean, I had to go for the move at the end, but honestly, I think I surprised everyone there. Surprised Jackson a bit too much. And I didn't actually know what happened at the time because I didn't feel any contact. But looking back at the replay, it looks like I just left it a bit late.
Do you think maybe you're a bit indecisive because you didn't show the nose at all? It was on the braking zone at the entry that you sort of angled the car to the inside. Do you think maybe it was just a little bit too late?
Oh, well, it was definitely too late. But I think I did want to catch Jackson by surprise because I noticed, it's very difficult to put a move on him. But I caught myself by surprise there.
Yeah, passing Harlow does seem to be a bit of a troublesome area for you, as we've seen over the first 4 races now of this season. If there is no penalty to you that's issued post-race, the points are still equal heading into round 3, which should be interesting. It does look like you've clawed back a little bit of race pace, though, qualifying pace, excuse me, compared to him. You didn't have a pole this time, but overall the margin between you was a little bit tighter. Was there a bit more preparation going into that 1-lap pace this week?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I think I am still losing a little bit in qualifying in terms of the tires. I can't really get them heated up like I think Jackson can. And I also noticed in the race that I felt a little bit better towards the end of the stints. So it's something to work on. But I have found that, as long as you're on the front row, it's not too much of an issue.
Yeah, well, the front row seems to be where you and Jackson are pretty much locked in for the first 2 rounds and probably for the rest of the season at this rate too. Now, looking forward to next round, we finish off our tour through Japan. We head to Motegi. Probably a track that's underutilized a little bit. How much experience you got there here on iRacing?
I think I've done maybe 1 race there many moons ago.
Yeah, nice.
So it'll definitely be interesting. But I think, thankfully, in this car, it doesn't take too much time to get up to speed at a track. So we'll see how we go.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing how that one goes. Before we let you go, who do you want to thank?
Yeah, thanks to the sponsors, Panther Racing Fuel, MIR Raceline, and Joel Real Timing. And thanks to Evolution Racing Team.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
So, Riley Preston there gives his thoughts on his race, on his thoughts with the contact. Now let's get the other side of the perspective as Harlow has a chat with Cam Dance.
Well, race 1, it didn't go particularly well, Jackson, but you got the win in race 2 by quite a large margin in the end.
Yeah, it was good race in race 2. Yeah, I think I made up for last week's pit stop. I did a couple of practice ones before the race, and I found out exactly where you got to stop. So that really helped me out tonight. And I think Riley and that had the issue I had last week where their pit stops took forever. So that's not ideal. But yeah, race 1 could have been a bit better. I felt I did everything I could until that last lap. And then, yeah, I think Riley just went for a move and it just clipped the rear of me. So, yeah, well, is what it is.
Any hard feelings?
Nah, not really. If it happens again, then I guess that's how we're going to race. And, yeah, I guess that's, yeah, you get what you give.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens while we finish off the Japan side of the tour with Motegi for a night race next week. So are you looking forward to, and have you done many laps around Motegi in previous?
I think I've done maybe 3 laps at Motegi in a GTE, like when I first got iRacing. So, yeah, I haven't done many at all. So I have to do some, I guess, before the race. Can't just rock up to that one and expect to be quick. So I'll do some laps and hopefully we can come back and be quick again.
Well, it seems that you and Riley are going to be pretty even then, seeing as you've both done minimal amount of laps. But nevertheless, just before we let you go, any shout outs and any thanks you want to give?
Yeah, just a massive thanks to all the Altus guys, the Chiefs, Logitech G, Astro Gaming, Modem Simulation, Cube Controls, and Cubata for being my spotter tonight and having some laughs while I'm racing.
Thank you for joining us, Jackson. Best of luck for Motegi.
Cheers.
And let's catch up with our race 2 runner-up, Dean Ross. Congrats, picking up another podium here in Ozicar.
Cheers, fellas. Yeah, it's pretty good. Should probably apologise to Cam for taking him out on the weekend, but that's another story for another time.
Never need to apologise for taking out Cam. Hey, so in terms of your race, it was a pretty calm, cool, collected race for you. It was a pit stop phase that worked out very nicely. Preston obviously had some issues down on pit road. In terms of your battles, though, anyone who stood out as giving you a really hard time out there?
After the first couple of laps, no, it was pretty pretty cool, calm and collected, as you say. It was just a battle on the stopwatch. So Reese, I thought he was going to have a bit for me tonight. He was pretty quick last week, so it was good to get a couple of points up on him. But yeah, in the end, I just tried to stick with the two in front and stay in the draft as long as I could, because I knew once the tyres went off, they'd pull away. So I think all in all, I did as best as I could.
Anything changed between race 1 and race 2? It certainly seemed you were quicker in the second race than you were in the first one. Is it just a case of having more time to get settled into the rhythm, or was it a case of just warming up?
It was a little bit of less driver errors, and just a couple of the in-car adjustments that I was trying to come to grips with in race 1. So I think I got my head around them in race 2 and was able to stick with them a little bit longer, which in the end, when it comes to the pit stop phase, is where it paid off. So yeah.
Certainly did. So congratulations on picking up another podium here, the second, I believe, of many more to come, I'm sure. Before we let you go, who are the sponsors that get it done for you?
Apex Imagery, CPR Car Parts, Eucalyptus Tree Services, Sam for doing the paints, who's not my brother, by the way, no relation whatsoever, and Ira for chucking on a good series, and obviously you guys for putting in a good show week in, week out, and every night of the week. So cheers.
Thank you very much, and good luck for the first night race of the season out at Motegi next week.
Yeah, see you there.
Alrighty. Cameron, what are your last thoughts then before we wrap this one up?
Well, it's kind of not really a positive one, because I'm hoping this rivalry between Preston and Harlow really does spice things up. But
Yes.
at the same time, it's looking forward to seeing what Motegi offers. We haven't actually. I'm pretty sure these cars haven't actually been to Motegi before, so probably again going to be another first that we're going to end up seeing here on Simspeed.
Surely going to be another cracker to the series. If you want to know whether Preston gets a penalty before next week, then make sure you go like the Ozicar Facebook page and you can stay up to date with all of that. Make sure you like Simspeed TV on social media as well while you're at it. Make sure you chuck us a like on the broadcast. Hit subscribe if you want to stay up to date with all of our latest action each and every day of the week. And from all of us up here in the booth, my name is Ryan Jones, Cameron Dance alongside me and Jake Kennedy. Unfortunately, behind the scenes. Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
This is very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my god.
God, what?